Sobia Bashir, and today I am going to show you how I make my version of butter chicken. Now everyone's got their own version, every family's got their own way, absolutely everybody's got their own blend of spices, every ingredient that they use may or may not be different to mine. And that's the brilliant thing about cooking, is that you can just do it your own way. So I'm going to show you mine today. So, ingredients, we've got butter, obviously. We've got some green chillies. Now they're optional, up to you if you want to put any in, but I like a bit of heat, so it's entirely up to you. I've got 1 chopped onion. We have a good cup of yoghurt, a cup of double cream, and I've got all my spices here. So we've got coriander, there's salt, you can add that to taste. I put fennel in my butter chicken, and this is my own little unique red chilli mix that's got lots of different things in it. I've got garam masala here, and I have a little bit of green cardamom that's ground up into a powder. There is also some paprika, which I generally tend to use for colour more than flavour. Red pepper, you can use any kind you like. I just like the sweetness of the red peppers. I've got my own garlic and ginger paste, which I make up in bulk. This is all I've got left. I have to make more. And chopped coriander that goes in at the end, and obviously chicken. Chicken breast is what I like to use. Entirely up to you if you want to use leg. It's also great, but personal preference is chicken breast. So let's crack on. We are going to just throw in the butter straight away and let that melt away. And then once it's melting down, I'm going to add our onions. Now some people do like to put their onions, ginger and garlic in at the same time. I don't. I like my onions to caramelise. I just think it gives your curry a completely different flavour. And if you add your ginger and your garlic in too quickly, then that caramelisation just doesn't happen. So we're in with the onions. And butter, again, obviously, it's not, butter chicken isn't the healthiest of dishes anyway. This is probably one of the few dishes I make with this much butter in. So yeah, it's entirely up to you how much you use, but I think obviously it makes the dish as well as the cream. So we're just going to let that cook down a little bit. And that's going to take forever.
Alright.
I keep staring at it thinking it might make it go a bit quicker, but actually it doesn't.
That's fair.
I just need to leave it alone.
Alright, so should I ask you a few questions while we're cooking?
Yeah.
Okay, so what got you into cooking in the first place?
Oh, my mum, I think, was, she loves cooking. She's done it forever, obviously, all mums do. And I used to I've always been a bit of a home bird, so I like to stay at home, I like to cook, and I think that comes from mum.
Alright, okay.
She was the same, she is the same. She's, so when I was young, she'd spend her days in the kitchen cooking, and I would just stand with her and watch and watch and watch. I was making roti at about 8-9 years old, so it just came naturally to me. So.
Alright.
Yeah, so mum, definitely. It's weird now because actually when I first got married, mum would be my call friend. So if I ever got stuck wondering what to make for dinner or how to cook a certain dish, I'd ring mum up and say, oh, how do you make this? I've forgotten how to do this. How many spices do I need to put in that?
Right, okay.
And now it's the other way around. Okay. So now she rings me. Oh, I've forgotten how to make this. How do I make this? And that, so we've just got a complete role reversal.
I guess it's good that you learned it. So, so quite a few deities now, they're not sure how to cook things. So what's the best way of learning how to cook?
Just do it. Yeah. Just do it, because what's the worst that can happen? It might not taste amazing, but it's food at the end of the day. And you learn by, I mean, that's how I learned. It's okay learning from mum, and I did, and you know what mums are like. They literally, oh, just put a bit of this in, put a bit of that in, and you're just like, well, I don't know how much that is. What does that mean?
Okay, we see a little book in the corner of your kitchen. So what's the little book?
Oh, my little baby. It took me 5 years to incubate. Yeah, my pride and joy. Salan Roti is a collection of all of the basic curries, I think, with a few kind of special ones in there. The basic curries that we make day in, day out. And I know when we go to the restaurants and stuff and we order stuff and, it's, can I have a chicken madras or can I have, gosht or piazza, all that kind of stuff. But we don't do that at home, none of us do. None of us use any of those words. It's always what do you want for dinner, or we'll have gosht salad today, or we'll have, I don't know, sabzi, whatever. And that's it, end of. And that's what this book is. That's my mum's and my versions of all of those basic curries that we eat all of the time.
Very cool. So how do we know when an onion is caramelized?
You can see, you can just have a look. It literally just starts to brown around the edges, and that's kind of the time you want to think about putting your ginger and garlic in. This is what gives your salmon that little bit of sweetness that it needs, just to counteract everything else that's going in.
So what happens if an onion isn't browned enough?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Everyone's got their own way of doing things, and I think if it's not browned enough, you just won't have as much of that sweetness. The onion will cook down in the salmon regardless. It will still be amazing. But it's just my personal preference. Right, so I'm going to go in with the ginger and garlic now because we're looking like it's about ready. So I prepped this in bulk because if there's one thing I hate doing is peeling garlic and ginger. Drives me mad. So I do it all together and then I don't have to worry about it.
So how much garlic and ginger do you use exactly?
Volume, half and half. So if I'm blending it all together, I'll do 1 cup of ginger and roughly 1 cup of garlic and a little bit of oil. Now we can see in here that it's starting to stick a little bit to the pan. So when it does that, all I do is grab a tiny bit of water. And it just stops things burning at the bottom. Now I have actually forgotten one little ingredient, and that's my tomatoes, which are in the fridge. So I'm going to grab those. Right. Okay, so blended tin tomatoes. And it's frowned upon. Many people frown upon tin tomatoes. I love tin tomatoes. Why? Because they've just got a really nice rich colour and flavour, and I think the tomatoes that we get here in the UK are just not that flavourful really. So I'm going to go in with about 1/3 of a cup of tin tomatoes that I just literally blitz while they're in the can, just because I don't like the little bits of tomato in my mouth when I'm eating. So I'm going to crank that heat up a little bit more. Now everything goes in all at once now, so the best way to do this is fast. So yoghurt is about a cup, maybe just a little bit more than a cup of yoghurt there. And I'm going to throw all the spices in together, so the cardamom, the paprika, I'm going to keep a little bit of that back for the end, coriander, garam masala, my red chilli mix, which is in my book, and fennel, and the salt. I'm not a massive fan of too much salt, so use as much as you want, or as little. So we're just going to mix all of that together. Now the reason I put the yoghurt and the spices all in together is because if you put the spices in when the pan's really hot, they can burn a little bit and they get a little bit bitter. So if you put them in with the yoghurt at the same time, it kind of stops that from happening. So once that's done and it's all combined, I'm just going to let that cook a little bit, and you'll see after a minute or two that it starts to split a little bit, so you can see the oil separate from the rest of the masala. So this is the base of your salan. And if you get this bit right, the rest is a breeze. This is where all the flavour comes from. So if you cook the masala and everything that you put in at this point, your curry or your salan is going to be amazing at the end. If you don't, you can still kind of catch that raw flavour a little bit. Same with your ginger and garlic. If you don't let it cook for enough time in the oil when you add it in with the onions, it can taste a little bit raw. So you can see, if I leave that a little bit, a little bit more, you can see the butter starting to show up and separate from the rest. So just draw a little line through the middle and you'll see the butter come through first. It's not quite there yet. There's quite a lot of liquid in there because I added some water in as well. So keep going. And around about now is when I add my green chillies. Now, don't put these in with your onions. If you do, they really do burn and they catch the back of the throat. It's not pleasant. So, we're almost there. Today it wants to take its time.
So how much chilli is a good amount of chilli?
Oh my, that's potluck.
Okay.
Because you never know how hot they're going to be when you get them. So you can buy one batch of chilies and there's literally no heat or fire, and you put 5, 6, 7, 8 and they don't do anything for your salmon. So then you go and you buy your next batch and you think, oh, they'll be the same as the last ones. And so you put in 5, 6, 7 chilies and you blow your head off. So there's a couple here. These are quite feisty, so I think 2 is enough. So I'm going to stir those through, and you can see that masala has dried up a little bit now. There's not as much liquid in there. We're going to go straight in with the chicken. Now again, some people tend to brown their chicken before they do any of this, and then they make the sauce separately and put the chicken in. I personally don't like it that way. I think that when you put the chicken into the masala and cook it in the actual masala itself, that it just takes on so much more flavour. So we're just going to stir that through. Now I've used about, I'd say 4 chicken breasts, 4 kind of medium-sized chicken breasts.
The question on my lips is, how do you know when chicken is cooked?
Good question, especially when it's in salan. So the key is to make sure you dice your chicken evenly, make sure that it's all kind of the same shape, and well, shape doesn't matter, but size, and then they will all cook evenly. And then you'll see now that as you cook it in the sauce, the chicken does start to kind of get this white outside layer. So you know that it's starting to seal on the outside. But it also releases quite a lot of liquid. So once that liquid is kind of released, you can leave it to simmer for a bit, put the lid on for about 10 minutes, and then you just want to check, just take a piece out when you're not quite, if you're not quite sure, take it out, pull it open. It just needs to be white in the middle. You need to be able to cut through it nice and easy. It shouldn't be rubbery. And any juices that kind of come out of the chicken should be clear. And you know it's cooked. Diced chicken like this, it normally takes about 10-15 minutes maybe. So I'm going to turn that heat down a tiny bit, and I am just going to add a tiny bit of water again because it's starting to stick a little bit at the bottom. Do this as much as you need to. If you find that your salad's sticking to the bottom of the pan, just add a little bit of water. It will just help things along a little bit. And it will just evaporate. I'm trying to keep a straight face because my crew person is crawling around on the floor. Right, so you can see that the chicken is sealing on the outside. So once it's kind of all got that white coating, you want to reduce your heat right down. So you can see it's got that nice kind of white colour. So you're just going to reduce the heat all the way down, put a lid on it and just leave it to cook. Come back and check in a few minutes just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. But that is it. The bulk of the work is to make the masala and the rest of it is easy peasy. So we're just going to leave that for a few minutes.
So when you do it, how come it's so quick and easy, and how come in your head it's a lot worse?
I think everyone feels like that. I think everyone feels like it's more complicated than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've made one salan, the rest is super easy because the technique is the same. It doesn't matter really what you're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
The technique is virtually the same for every single curry you make. So don't be afraid. They're not complicated, they're not unhealthy, but they're not unhealthy usually. Today this one's not particularly great because there's a ton of butter in it, but you know, they can be as healthy or as unhealthy as you want them to be. They're not, what we make at home is not the same as what you would get in a takeaway. You know, all that stuff is cooked in bulk and it's got masses and masses of salt and oil and colour and God knows what else in it. It's not how we do it at home. So you just have to make it your own, how you like it. If you don't want to put a lot of oil in, and we don't at home because my husband is a fitness freak, so he just will not, he won't eat it if there's tons of oil. And that's not how Mum taught me either, you know, it's just whatever you want to put in is okay. So just experiment, play with your ingredients, but know that it doesn't take longer than about half an hour to make a nice curry. And actually it's the quickest thing for me. I think if I'm rushed off my feet and I just don't know what to make for dinner and I'm running out of time, salan is the quickest thing for me to do. So that's what I do. Right, we're just going to check this. Just give it a quick stir. And you'll see actually now that there is a lot more liquid in there. And that comes from the chicken. I'm just going to let that release and let the chicken cook in its own juices for a little while.
So at this point you're just waiting for the chicken to cook?
Yes, so
okay.
It's just simmering away. It doesn't take too long. Obviously the bigger the chunks of chicken, the longer it takes to cook, so I'm just going to leave that to simmer away.
So what do you like to do normally during this half an hour downtime?
Usually have a cup of tea. Now I'm going to take the lid off because there's an awful lot of water in there. So the chicken, actually I'll show you, the chicken is practically cooked. So we're going to take out one of the bigger pieces. Although I tried to be even, it wasn't very even. We're just going to cut through it. It's hot, obviously. So you can see that it breaks away quite easily, so we know that that's cooked. So, I'm going to pop that in there. Now I'm going to crank the heat up because all of that liquid in there needs to be gone. So, we're going to just keep stirring gently, and while that's cooking away I'm going to throw in my red peppers so they can start to soften. So that's one whole red pepper that I've put in today. I'm just going to stir that through and let it keep cooking. And then when that's kind of reduced by half, which hopefully shouldn't take too long, I'm going to add in the cream. So just pull your chicken to one side just to see how much or how thick your sauce actually is. You want it to kind of really thicken up. Get rid of all of that extra water. Right, okay, so you can see now it's not quite as much sauce as there was before. You want to keep a little bit because what we're going to do now is stir in the cream. If you're on a diet, don't watch. Don't look now. I'm going to keep that heat cranked up and stir that in. Some people actually like to blend their masala before they add the chicken in. I actually quite like some texture to my butter chicken, so I don't blend the onions and the masala together. I just like it. I like to keep it as is. It's practically all cooked down anyway. So now that last little bit of paprika that was in that tub, I'm going to add that in now, and this is just to give it a little bit more colour. Put that in there. Just pull that out and stir it in. And it just gives it a tiny bit more of a red colour. And now at this point it's entirely up to you whether you leave it with a runny-ish sauce, which is as it is now, so it's quite thin. I like mine a little bit thicker than that, so I'm just going to let it cook a little bit more. And then we're going to go in with the coriander. It's a little bit thicker now. Okay, I'm going to turn that heat all the way down. And I'm going to stir in all of the coriander. Now if you're serving this as a dinner party dish, you might want to just keep a little bit back and sprinkle it on top when you put your salmon in your serving dish. It just looks nice. That is it. It gives it a really nice colour too. There. Serve it up into a plate.
Yeah, of course.
Get one of my nice ones. Right.